Hi, my name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Welcome back to the show. I am the host of Real Men Real Talk Live. My name is Jay Rothman. I'd like to welcome to the studio tonight. We have Mr. Josh Richer coming in from Santa Monica, California. He is still out of a bubble. And welcome to the show, Josh Richer.
Great to be here as always, Jay. Loving it.
We have Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to the show, Jeff Fasano.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Hello, folks. Enjoying your Tuesday night out there.
There you go. It's Tuesday night, not Friday night. For some
I know. I keep on thinking it's Friday night.
I know we have Evis Love Heath, the man of the land from down under. He calls Australia home. Welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me, brothers. As always, thank you.
And
thank you.
We have actually Charles Maddox. Unfortunately, was en route to come in from a remote location in the Dominican Republic, and unfortunately, he had some unexpected delays in transportation today. And unfortunately, it doesn't appear as though he's going to make it on tonight's episode. Charles, we hope that you get to catch us either live or on replay. We miss you, and we hope that if you do make it there, you make it there safe. And your trip, you meet all of your unexpected expectations, perhaps that you may have set in place. But we miss you, brother. Hopefully, we'll see you back next week on Real Men Real Talk Live. In the meantime, gentlemen, another week has passed. I'd like to take a moment here to welcome our viewers and our listeners. If you hear something that you like or love, please tap your like or love button and light us up. Because when you light us up, it takes us to a whole nother level of energy and being present for the show. And also, if you any comments come your way or questions that you have, please feel free to drop them into your comments, and we'll do our best to post them and then expand upon them. But in any event, tonight I am really excited to deep dive into a topic that that's really close to my heart. It's all about faking it until you make it. And in our pre-show production green room area, Josh Richer said, "Show up until you grow up," which is a whole nother perspective, perhaps, on faking it till you make it. But with this opening, I have no idea where this topic's going to go. I know in my home growing up in a small city east of LA called New York, fake it till you make it for me was all about a career in business. But I suspect that there's a whole nother level of faking it till you make it that we may even uncover tonight, and it may have to do with our personal relationships, perhaps.
Ooh.
And how and where what does that look like? So
I didn't even think of that part. Okay.
Surprise!
As Evans always says in our pre-production meetings, somehow I think this is going to always wind up with into relationships.
We got. I want to just take a moment here for anyone that's watching us live right now, in our viewership and our listeners, that is right now in the midst of healing from COVID. I want to just take a moment to honor you. Don't want to disclose any names, but I am aware of at least one viewer that's with us live right now that did get positive test results that was shared with me earlier today. Just didn't expect to see you here. I love you, brother. And may you be blessed with a speedy recovery. We all of us, 5 of us, are supporting you in total wellness. And so thanks for joining us this evening and being with us. Fake it till you make it. I'm going to ask one of you guys to jump into the hot seat out of the gate And let's see, Josh, you're right next to me. So tell me, why don't you kick us off tonight, and let's see where we go with it.
Boom.
All right. Well, I mean, I, like you, thought that term was business related, and that sort of ties into our insecurities we had about ourselves, or things that we didn't think were possible in our lives, and we had to put on this shiny coat and pretend. And I thought that that's what that term meant for a really long time. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I learned what that really meant, both spiritually and energetically, because we all vibrate at certain vibrations. When we're low energy, that's what we're putting out into the universe, and that's what the universe matches us. So fake it till you make it, for me, doesn't mean putting on a shiny coat and pretending to be something that I'm not. What it means is looking ahead at the person that I am striving to become, or that I am becoming now. And what would that person do? What are their habits? What are they? How do they eat? What are the foods they eat? What is their sleep cycle like? What is their sleep hygiene, self-care practices, things like that? What would that person do? And just simply do those things until they become routines for you. And then you are that. And so it doesn't really, I kind of hate the term fake, because it's more like you're showing up and you're becoming that person that that you see yourself in the future as. And then the universe matches your energy. So you're showing up with, vigor for life because you're excited, and you've, had a great meditation in the morning, and that energizes you. The universe is going to match that energy in your life, and opportunities will come and things will come. It's amazing when you do sort of just show up as this person, what happens in life. That mirror that comes back to you. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah, love that, brother.
What do you make of that, Jeff Fasano? I hear you in the background, so somehow it's resonating. What's going on for you right now?
Yeah, I mean, can I defer to Evis?
Wait a minute. You want to pass?
Oh,
I want to defer to, I am dying. I've been dying all week, and even watching Evis's videos. I want to hear, because to be honest with you folks, I mean, Josh just clarified it more for me, but I've heard this term for 25 years. And when we were talking about it in our production meeting, I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what fake it till you make it means, even though people have told me this. And I was like, wow, I'm not fake. And what is making it? I really don't know. I mean, make what? Make it where? It's kind of like saying, when I get there, then I can do this. So if I make it, then I guess I can be who I am. So
maybe Jeff is like, when you get there, you'll be here. You know what I mean? I mean, that's such a thing. You hit a lot of questions in that. And I know Evis will do a good job of breaking it down from his perspective. And then, so I'll give you the pass. But, at the end of the show, when we get into musical chairs, if you use your pass now, you're not going to get a second one later.
You only get one.
All right. I got it.
All right. I'll got you back, brother.
So it's like your lifeline thing, Josh. So you get one lifeline or something on that show.
Now, is that one per show or one ever?
The rules can change from minute to minute in Real Men Real Talk Live, because we are combustible, we're spontaneous, and we no longer live in the rules of 3D, do we?
Not at all. Not on this show, anyway.
All right.
5D,
at least not tonight.
So what I'd like to do is just segue into the seventh dimension
Oh, look out.
Bring in this love.
No, look, I think Josh has done a great effort there in giving us a nice platform for tonight's show. But as always, brothers and my sisters, thanks for having me here in the Land Down Under on the other side of the pond. If you're joining here in the Land Down Under, I know we've got a couple of viewers there now. So thanks for joining in on it, Real Men Real Talk Live. And I brought this one up this week, and I went and saw a show early in the week, a movie called Tenet, which I talked a little bit about on one of my videos at the start of the week. And it got me thinking about this quantum reality we're living in. And, you know, Jay just mentioned this third dimension that we have been living in. When we're talking about this 5D, man, anything goes. We're living in the house of mirrors now. So I want you, my brothers and sisters, to even just start thinking about what is real. What's real to you? And where would this term, fake it till you make it, ever have popped up within your life? Now, as we get into this show tonight, there's so many layers where we can go down on this. And why I wanted to touch on it is because all I want for my brothers and my sisters is to be living their best life. All I want for my brothers and sisters is to be unlimited, living in potential, living in infinite possibilities. That's what we've gone into in the fifth dimension. But see, we're so caught back in old ways. We're caught back in old stories. We're caught back in old belief systems. We're caught back in old conditioning. So one of my videos at the start of the week, I was trying to come in and start talking about with this connection with your body. And unless you start to a point, faking it till you make it, guess what? Your body's going to be playing old belief systems and old stories that you've nurtured it from past conditioning, past traumas and abuse. One good example that I did talk about in a video previously today was about my first ever job. And we mentioned it here in the green room at the start that a lot of this term faking it till you make it was really about a professional thing that many of us have heard when we go into careers. Well, I showed up very much so in one of my first jobs as a men clothing store. And I've said this on the previous Real Men Real Talk Live, where to cut a long story short, I went into the shop that night and I saw the manager. She was busy, man. She was under the pump, as we'd say here in the Land Down Under. Now, not once did I think about that interview, but I went into that interview knowing that I had the job. Not thinking, can I get the job? I went in there with a knowing that I got that job already. So when I saw that she was busy, I observed the space around me. I observed the area. She couldn't even say hello to invite me into the store. I then took it upon myself to start acting as if I was a salesperson in that store. I started serving brothers in that men's clothing store as if I'd already worked there. On the spot, she hired me. That was a great example of what we're talking about and what I'm talking about when we're faking it till we make it. So are we talking about faking it till you make it? Or are we talking about faking it till you become it? And it's faking it till you become it, a matter of faking it till you believe it. So there's so many layers we're going to talk about here on a Real Men Real Talk Live. But my brother Jeff Fonsana, I hope that gives you a little bit of entree to bring you.
I love that. You know, Ev, I love that story. How old were you at that time when you decided to jump in and start selling in a moment without even having a job?
I was fresh at 17, brother.
17.
Wow.
Ooh.
Amazing insight at 17 to just jump in like that.
17, man. So when I looked up that term, you know, particularly for this show about fake, at the etymology of that, it actually says to imitate confidence, to imitate competence, to imitate an optimistic mindset. So Jeff Fonsana, I think we've got enough entrees there for you, my brother, to start coming in now.
Actually, what you just said was wonderful. I kind of, after hearing you and Josh and us talking about it, it was always for me not so much faking it, but acting as if. acting as if you're supposed to be. That's where you're supposed to be, which is what you were doing, Ev. It was. I'm going to act as if I am. I'm here. I must be here for a reason. So, as even if my stuff is coming up, my not good enough, my not perfect enough, is all perking up and coming up within me, allow that to be there. But I'm here. I'm supposed to be here. And I have, and now the more I hear you guys, the more I remember a situation early on in my photography career when I was in a room with, I don't like to drop names, but I was, to give you a context of it, I was in a room with James Earl Jones and Felicia Rashad, Terrence Howard, Anika Noni Rose, Debbie Allen, Giancarlo Esposito, and an amazing room of actors. And I walked in because I was hired. That's the most important part here. They hired me. The production, the producers of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof on Broadway saw enough of me and hired me to do a photo documentation of the entire run of their show. But I remember walking in and seeing those who I just mentioned sitting around a table for the first table reading. And I stopped dead in my tracks and I looked and I said, what the hell am I doing here? What am I doing here? And all of a sudden, as I look back on it, this little boy came up and I was like, well, what am I doing here? I'm not good enough to be here. What the heck am I doing here? Even though they're paying me, what am I doing here? And what I needed to do in that moment was to just act as if. I was there, I was hired, I'm supposed to be here. Even though I'm freaking out, my little Jeff on the inside is freaking out like crazy. I went in, breathed, hung out, and acted as if I was supposed to be there. And this was an experience for 6 months that came up often. And as I gained that experience, acting as if every single day for 6 months, I came out on the other end going, oh no, this is where you should be. So it went from that moment. So that's how I look at it. Act as if you're in that situation, you're supposed to be there. Act as if you're supposed to be there. Have your feelings. And as you move through it, you will realize that, yes, I am supposed to be here.
Beautiful.
And this is a tool, right? I mean, Ev, you talked about those old stories that we're all trying to beat, those stories that, Jeff, you and I share, the I'm not enough. And I know that we battle with that over the years. And this is a tool. This is one of those ways where you just keep showing up and keep going through the motions as if, like you said so beautifully, Jeff, and then you become.
Yeah.
You become that. And that it's a way to, what do I say? Just to sort of that old story each time gets its power is taken away a little bit more and a little bit more. And as you become, then you are, like Jay was saying, you then that time is now.
Yeah, man.
Use it as a tool.
Love that. Use it as a tool. Love that. Love that.
I'm going to jump in here for a moment and just share my perspective from what I'm hearing. I love how this conversation is going tonight, because on one hand, we could really spin it in a negative. We could really we could break it down into how it doesn't work in our lives and how it's not serving us. And I'm going to go there. But at the same time,
yeah, I like that.
But at the same time, right now we're looking at it from the positive perspective. So, for example, the perspective you gave, Jeff, was you were overwhelmed with the people that were in the room, and you didn't feel like you belonged as a relatively new photographer entering into that field. And you weren't interested in doing wedding photography. You very quickly got pulled into entertainment. And there's nothing wrong with wedding photography. There's a lot of people making a living doing it. More importantly, if they love it and it's their passion, it's beautiful. But in that moment, I could only imagine what it must have felt like to know the who's who in that room. And right away, that little boy, that little Jeffrey came right out and was like, holy shit. Like, if they only knew that, I barely know how to take off the cover to the lens. Like, I have no business being here. But I'll tell you what, I'll tell you how that worked in my life. I was a very young 20-something, early 20s, and I jumped into my field, my career, and I ended up staying in it for close to 4 decades. But early on, I was just 21 years old, and I didn't know squat. It was a very technical job that I had, and my clients knew more than I did, and I knew that. But what I had to do was a few things. One was I realized that I needed to get educated in my field so that if they were to test me, I'd be able to have the right answer for them. And if I didn't, not to BS it, but acknowledge that, great question, let me get back to you, and then follow through. But more importantly, it was how would I show up? Now, for me, what I found a powerful tool in my early 20s, trying to break into a career that I knew had some potential strong bones, some strong legs. And for me, it was about how I dressed. I learned early on that when I got out of jeans and I put on a suit and tie, something changed. I just felt different. I looked in the mirror. I liked the way I looked. I liked the way I felt. This is, of course, before obesity stepped into my life. In my early 20s, I wasn't there yet. I hadn't gone through my life stuff. But that suit changed everything for me. And even though I knew that I knew I had self-doubt because I didn't know what I needed to know yet, that was enough to give me the confidence to get out there, to make those sales calls and find some success, quick success like you did, Jeff Fasano, very early on. The second thing that I found as a tool in sales was, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but all I found was that it started to work. I didn't realize it until just a couple of years ago in my own healing journey. What I was doing was I was setting the intention. So right before I get out of my car to go into my appointment, I said a couple of words that set my mind, set my tone, set my mindset to be present and to close the deal. And for me, it was real simple. I just set up strongly. Showtime. It's showtime now. That was enough for me. It was a simple tool. I don't even know where the heck I got it from, guys, but it showed up right on time. And so for me, yeah, did I feel like I had a fake it till I made it? Yes, I did, in business. And for a long time, I overcame that because once I hit my late 20s and early 30s, I realized that the age, I felt insecure because of my age. It was just, I felt like I wasn't worthy of it, or I just was too young. And I had a whole story I created around that. But for me, those two tools were powerful. And if there's anyone watching tonight that's in your early 20s or 30s or starting out a new career, find a few of your own sweet spots that can help elevate your confidence or your lack of, that until you can get there will give you the confidence boost to at least show up and get into the boxing or get into the game.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Josh? What do you make of that?
I have a similar story too, Jay. I mean, breaking into TV, I was in this crazy world that, I didn't go to school for this. I didn't, I just showed up here with the intention to get in some way or another. And I did. And one of the challenges in art directing and props and what I do is that anything the writers put down on paper in a script, I have to bring into reality as an object, a thing, you know. And for 8 years in Comedy Central, I mean, the writers would write some really wacky stuff. And it was like, when I was reading the script, I would think to myself, I have no fucking clue how I'm going to do this. And I'd show up at the hard, and there's a hard deadline. I cannot, you know, blow past the deadline of when this prop needed to play or perform. And the problem with TV is it has to work over and over and over again flawlessly, and it can't break because everybody's standing around. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment hinging on every moment. And you never want to be the guy that fails. So there was an intense amount of pressure to pull it off every time, and it had to be perfect every time. And I go to the hardware store and look at things, you know, upside down and sideways, and objects that weren't meant to be used for this or that. And what I found was eventually, through basically showing up and moving through those fears and those times of being terrified, like you were talking about, Jay, I developed a confidence. So I can tell you to this day, there are still some scripts I read and I'm like, I have no fucking clue how I'm going to pull this off, but it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And I know I'll get it done. So now I have 20 years of experience behind me to say, you know what, even if I don't have a clue, I know I'll figure it out. And if I just keep moving forward and taking steps, the answers come.
Yep.
So I love that.
Love that, Josh. Love that, man. It's funny. It's funny you say that too, brother. There was a young man, one of his first ever scripts that I read about, and he'd got a scene for a big movie, and he had absolutely no idea also how he was going to create that scene, but being able to fake it, so to speak, till he made it, he was able to make one of the biggest movies ever, and his name was Steven Spielberg.
That's right. I remember his story. He lied his way onto the lot.
That's it, man. That's it. So, Jay, you talk about this Showtime. We are living in a beautiful show. You know, we've touched on that inner child again, and we talk about what tools have we got here. The inner child, you know, like we think, okay, you know, we get something like this script or this career opportunity, the love of our life to come in. But how do we believe in ourselves? And I love what Rhonda Byrne says. We make believe. And to me, that's where we get this imaginative, this creative mind of this beautiful inner child who really has no fears whatsoever. So I love what you're saying there, Josh. I love that, brother.
You know, I was thinking about it today as I was preparing mentally for tonight's show. And each one of you guys have had some significant success in career. And I just knew that in your earlier years, you had to have had that same experience of the self-doubt. And how did you walk through it? How did you push through it so that you didn't have to spend year after year feeling like you're just skating by or getting by? Have you all released that from your own mindsets, your own belief systems? Do any of you still feel like you're faking it till you make it?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll come out. Absolutely.
Wow. Definitely, Jay. Go, Josh.
But for me, you know, we don't know our own potential.
Yeah.
And so I could be capable of so much and changing the world. We've all seen that one person can change the world in their lifetimes. And so, and that may not be my path, who knows, but I do know that in the past, I've broken through fears and proven to myself that I can do so much more than I ever thought I could. I'm way past where I thought I would be in life. I'll tell a brief story. I had to take Ritalin as a child for attention deficit, but I was so young. I took that. The story I made was that pill meant that I was stupid. and I had to take a pill to be equal to the other kids. And that affected me hugely in life, up into my mid-20s, where I didn't think I could go out for jobs that I wanted because I was dumb and I was stupid. So where I am today is so far past of where I thought I could be, but that was just a story. Yeah. And so even today, I don't know what I'm capable of. So I keep reminding myself of the past and saying, you're so much further than you thought you could be. What if you could do even more? Yeah. What if you're capable of even more? So that's how I get through those. But yeah, I have it for sure. Yeah.
You know, Josh, it's amazing. You said last week, we're very similar. I think that all the time. I look at in my life what I've accomplished, and I've accomplished an awful lot. Sometimes I can't even believe, like, how did they let me in? How the heck did they let me in here? That's an old George Carlin line, by the way. You know, but what I realized, and I realized early on, that my friend, I've mentioned him on the show, Robert Baker, at the very beginning when I quit my corporate job, and I started venturing into this in 1999. And then I met my friend Alex, and I started going. I met Robert, and he became my therapist, my mentor, my teacher, so many things, my friend, and I was just getting into it. I'd done one big thing, and it wasn't about doing big things. It was really making it. I knew that it was going to work. I had an inner knowing inside of me that this photography thing was going to work. I didn't know how it was going to work or anything like that. But one of the greatest tools that I ever got from the very beginning is Robert Baker telling me this little story about his grandmother. Robert was living in a lumberjack town north of Vancouver, BC, and he wanted to come to New York City. And his grandmother sat him down one day and said, "Robbie, just say yes. All your stuff is going to come up inside of you, but just say yes. Say yes. They will figure out if you can't do it or not, but more than likely you will. If you're there, just say yes." When Robert told me that was the biggest tool at the very beginning of my career. I said yes to everything. Believe me. Some of the things I wish I didn't say yes to, but I said yes. Somebody said, "Hey, you want to do this?" Yes. "You want to do this?" Yes. "You want to do this?" Yes. And even though that doubt, that inner doubt, the inner not good enough would come up, Robert was my mentor. Robert made it from a lumberjack town in north of Vancouver all the way to New York City and became the chief #1 makeup artist of New York City Ballet and Opera. Wow. He never took one makeup course in his life. All he knew is that I could paint. But he said yes all along the way. That, as we all know, you can have yes, oh my God, and it might not work out. But that was an amazing mentor for me. He made it all the way to New York by saying yes. So that's the tool that I have used. And I'm telling you, when something comes up, and just to go back to your question, Jay, every photo shoot that I do, no matter who it is, how big it is, how small it is, I'm driving to that photo shoot. My not good enough is churning inside. It's there. But I use a whole bunch of tools that I've learned over the years, and I just keep on saying to myself, yes, 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 yes. And I get there, and then once I pick up that camera, the shoot starts. I go into a whole different vortex and dimension as if I'm not even there.
Mm.
But it's getting through that point of where our programming, our conditioning, our wounding, our feelings are going to stop us in our track. And to everybody out there who's watching this, how many times has that happened for you? To get past that, my tool was always to allow that all to be there, but say yes. And once I got there and I did it, I realized, yep, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
I love that, Jeff. And what I want to do is I want to piggyback. I broke through that barrier, as I mentioned earlier, probably by the time I was in my late 20s. But it came back for me a second time around when I was recruited to be a senior leadership in a major competitor at the time, a vice president role. And it came back for me, that it came back in my thoughts like, wow. And for me, what the thought was my fear was that I really was underqualified for that role. And once they figure it out, I'm going to be gone. And I tell you what, it was really difficult because I didn't have the tools and I wasn't living the lifestyle that I'm living today to know how to navigate through it. So I just lived in it every day. And even at that point, the suit and tie didn't even help. It wasn't my Superman outfit anymore. I needed kryptonite. I needed something stronger than that. But here's what it just hit me tonight as I'm listening to the three of you. Is it possible? Is it possible that sometimes we're not supposed to be doing what we think we're supposed to be doing? Is it possible that the universe will take us out from that position or that experience? Because if it's not aligned with us at our heart space, at our soul space, from a value integrity standpoint, maybe we're not supposed to be there. But you see, in my old life, I self-willed everything. So even when it was not aligned with me and I had some significant conflict with the way things were going, especially towards the end, for me, it took, I got very sick. I had a heart attack on that payroll when I was 48. And for me, that was the beginning. That was the hammer over the head to say, wake up. Now, what happened for me was it wasn't strong enough. I needed a sledgehammer. I went back after a 6-month sabbatical and I put in another year, but I walked out. I walked out on one day when I just knew I was done and I never went back. I just resigned effective immediately. But for me, it was at that point, it was no longer about faking it till I was making it. In that moment, I had clarity that I didn't belong there. That if I stayed there, I had sold my soul to the company, A, and B, it was probably going to take me out. And so therein lies that question of, at times, if we can't make it in something that we think we should be doing, maybe that's not what we're supposed to be doing. What do you think of that,
I mean, how often have we heard it, particularly 2020, my brothers, where brothers and sisters are changing careers left, right, and center, thinking that was their dream job, dream career, and all of a sudden it's just been snatched from them. Particularly us as men, we have that particular thing within us that we must keep striving forward to chase that particular thing. Look, whether that's career, whether that's a relationship within our life, until it's actually pulled away from us, we keep putting in these hard yards until the universe, like you said, Jay, just pulls it right from underneath us. And I think that's where we're starting to really see that, particularly us as men, we're being guided to go with more that feminine quality of what we know as intuition, where we're coming back within to really make sure that we align with that intuitive side of who we are from a heart space, as opposed to that logical space with up in the mind, which is where I wanted to start going in. And, you know, you talk about some of those things, Joe, that nearly brought you to the deathbed. We've got to think of this from a hormonal point of view as well. You know, when we're riding, and we've touched this on shows before, when we're riding on these particular hormones like adrenaline, cortisol, our body naturally, it closes up. We're not going to be open for those particular things in our life to be aligned with, to come to us. We're going to be closed. We're not going to be releasing some of these nicer, good feeling hormones, even hormones such as testosterone in men and women as well. It's a powerful hormone that allows us to be more assertive within our lives, to take a little bit more action, but to also be calm. And that's quite an interesting fact there. So for me, really understanding from a hormonal point of view, from that brain side of view as well, that we're having a real play going on with our brain from a muscular point of view, from that neuromuscular point of view, going from the muscles back to the brain. So physiologically, how are you turning up in your life? Are you opening space to what's supposed to be coming in your life? Or are you closed and pushing through some of these things in our life that may not be meant for us in the first place?
Yep. Yes to everything you just said.
I've lived both sides of the fence too, where I push and push and push, and my will was the only thing keeping it going. And that's from a headspace. You nailed it. And Jay, I think you set that up great. Was just that the difference is, how do you feel? Right now I'm doing something, you know, I'm in the middle of getting ready for this move to Bali, and it's terrifying. I've never lived in another country, and I don't know the first thing that I'm doing, but I'm so excited and terrified. Now that's a wonderful combo. If you're excited and terrified, do it. Absolutely do it, because it's the best thing ever. But if you're fighting those old stories and you're thinking your way through it and muscling through it, I think that's the difference that you're talking about, Jay, is where if it's just your will that is fighting through, and there is no enjoyment there, but you're just so determined to make it happen that you have kept that giant ball rolling forwards through sheer will. You know, we got to tap into that feeling sense, that feminine side, like Ev was saying, and the answers are there.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. I love that. You know what? I want to just jump on real quick. I heard two of you guys say it tonight, and it's kind of gotten brushed under the rug. I want to pull it back out. I heard both you, Jeff, and Ev say is that you had a knowing. You had a knowing. And for those that may not be familiar with what that means, I'll break it down for you. What that means to me is that it's an inner knowing that when you know something is either right or wrong for you, and to pay attention, pay very close attention to what is coming from within here, not from what's coming from up here, which is where our thoughts and ego call home. When we have a knowing, if you knew that job was yours at age 17. You took matters into your own hand, and you landed the job by not how you answered her questions, but the action and the behavior that you took in that spontaneous moment. Now, let me ask you this, Ev, if you can recall. It's been many years, I'm sure, just a couple of 25.
Not many years, man.
in that moment when you made that decision to step in and become a salesperson without having even had the interview yet, do you recall what your motive was? What was your motive?
I was curious about that too.
Was it pure and clean, or was the motive, heck, I have an opportunity here to show them how good of a salesperson I am? I mean, how deep were you, or what was behind that spontaneous moment to jump in?
God, you're taking me back now, brother.
It's
I would
okay.
definitely I'd definitely say the challenge. You know, I've always, I've enjoyed a challenge come my way to, I guess, the male side, be able to problem solve or work my way around. But it was an inner knowing, Jay. It was an inner knowing that I knew that I had that job before I even turned up there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you think at that age too, I had to get paid at that time, I guess, too. So definitely that inner knowing what you're talking about, brother.
So the inner knowing was that in that moment, that was just the right thing to do? Or were you doing it?
It was intuitively done, Jay. It's just something that came to me. I saw that she was busy under the pump, as we call it here in Australia, and I took it upon myself to act out that role that I wanted.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. We got about 15 minutes to the hour, and there's a part of this that I wanna go down this path of with faking it till you make it. We've really honed in on from a career perspective. That's a natural place for us as men to go because it's safe, right? But this is where we really get to test our vulnerability and our feminine mind in this moment.
Are we going to relationships, Jay?
We're going there. We're going there.
I told you, Jeff.
We always,
bro.
Where I want to take you guys, let's just hold hands right now and just trust me in this moment. Have you ever been in a relationship where you didn't feel that you were worthy of that individual? I'm going to, in this moment, say, I presume all of you, it's with women. That's not relevant. But what is relevant is, did you ever feel like if she finds out who I really am, or my deepest, darkest shadows or secrets, she won't want to be with me. She won't like me. She won't love me. Josh, you're shaking your head yes. So you're up first.
1,000%. Yeah. Of course. And it's, it's tough. We've all got those shadows and those skeletons in the closet. And for years, I tried to hide that from the world. And that was the great con, right? Was showing the world that you're okay and that none of that exists. And it wasn't until I let all that out and started to embrace my past and old wounds and experiences, and to stop shaming all of that I could then love myself, which allowed others to be able to love me as well. Because I wasn't even accepting that love because I had shame and failure and all of that wrapped up. So even when I was in a relationship, I wasn't allowing the other person to love me because I couldn't forgive myself or I couldn't love me. So it wasn't until we often come, when we talk about relationships, we come back to the self-love as well. Because when I could embrace my shadows, my darkness, my mistakes, and frame them as beautiful learning experiences and my ability to share and help others, that's when I was finally able to let others love me.
Beautiful, brother.
What Josh just said.
Wow.
Really. I mean, I still feel that. So what we're talking about here is going to a level of intimacy in relationships. And yeah, I mean, exactly what Josh just said is even in me today, that there's that shame and that judgment of self that still comes into play. And I'm learning more and more and more to move deeper within, to love, honor, and value myself more deeply. To answer your question, way back when, Jay, actually it's not that far back, but I was with a woman once and I was looking at her and just going, what the heck is she? Why am I said this earlier when I walked into that rehearsal hall, like, what am I doing with her? What is she doing with me? But that was based on all exterior. that was because she was beautiful, you know, and she was successful and all that, and so was I, but I didn't know it. She would look at me going, oh my God, look at how successful this dude is, and all that good stuff. And just what Josh said, and Evis actually said earlier before as well, I didn't have a place for any love to come in and land because of how little I didn't love myself. So I didn't even know what love was or what love is. So anything, and I've been in relationships and I never even would realize why they're saying, Jeff, I love you. It's because I didn't have a place in here. It was so clogged with the old wounding, the old conditioning, the old belief systems, the old you're not good enough, that you're not worthy enough, where there was nothing in here for anything to land. So I had to work on that self-love and work on that self-acceptance to realize, and now as we're talking, I'm thinking of past relationships and I went, wow, I remember when that woman said this to me. And you guys are just right now on this show, these memories are coming up and I'm saying, wow, she said that to me. And where was I? Where was I? I had nothing. I had no space in my heart for that intimacy and for that love. And I look back at it now and know now that I am open. And just because of the work that I've done, the tools that I use to this day, Josh used a couple of shows ago an amazing tool that I think everybody should attempt to use when they're not feeling great about themselves, when the wounding and the conditioning comes up of I'm not good enough, I'm not perfect enough, I'm not worthy. Just go to that fence, find a schoolyard where all those little kids are playing, and go through each kid and ask them if they're worthy of love. And then put yourself there. If you can love all those little kids that are in that playground for who they are, put yourself there and know that you're worthy of that love as well. It's an amazing, amazing tool to use. And Josh brought that up in a couple of shows ago.
Hey, Jeff, let me ask you, how does it feel in this moment hearing yourself speak those words?
Like, well, it feels wonderful, but I feel like I've grown up. I feel like I'm moving into, and have been moving into, an adult space in my heart, as Evis always says, moving into the adult space in our heart. Because all of that conditioning is just up here. Actually, it's back here. And then to find the difference between my adult space right now on October 20th, 2020, and know that this is where I'm at, and that little kid is somewhere else. To finally delineate between the wounds of that kid to where I am in this adult space now. That's the tool, the main tool that I have been using. But like I said, Jay, the answer is I feel wonderful about saying it. I feel strong and confident, vibrant. Now I can look in the quantum field of possibility and probability outside of myself and know that it's all there. But I feel, I've grown up.
Love it.
Beautiful, brother.
Hey, I wonder, hey, Jeff, I love what you just shared as well. And I'm putting this up here. Jeannie Cass says 10-20-20-20. She just stamped it into the archives. And maybe this is your coming out party. Maybe this is it. 10/20/2020.
2020.
I love that. Hey, Ev, I'm not going to let you off so easy. These guys are just hot.
Oh, they've opened up, brother. It's so beautiful, man. My heart's just opening up for the brothers, and it's got so warm. And you got me thinking about a previous relationship. And I guess, one of those things for me was that, that whole sense of, I guess, of worthiness may have played a part in a past relationship split. Because, when I found out that I didn't have, or that I did have a scorecard against me, one of those things was that I wasn't prepared to provide a family. Yeah, I wasn't wasn't at that time worthy enough to provide a family at that particular time in our relationship. So when that relationship separated, that was definitely something that was coming across my mind. And I guess us as men, we are supposed to be that procreator. So you could only think what was definitely going along my mind, particularly in that relationship, as a part of, obviously getting through to that next step. So definitely that one thing for me, Jay, now that you've mentioned it, brother, I could really talk about in another show, that's for sure. Yeah, man.
Now I have a question, Ev. Did you use that after the breakup? Did you use that as evidence to reinforce your old story? Or did you see the opportunity there? Was it clear to you and in that moment?
Just reframe that question again, brother.
Well, you were saying the story that you had about, not being able to provide.
Yes.
So when the breakup happened, did you use that as evidence to back up your story that, see, I'm not able to, this is, did you use that as negative ammunition against yourself?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all, brother. I was worthy enough within myself to know that was not a part of that particular situation, because there was other things on the scorecard that was just another shot.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how our programming, our wounds, and our conditioning can fall into this an amazing place of projection onto someone else?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Isn't that? It's like we could walk right into meet the most amazing person, and then we can project our story onto them, and they haven't a clue. And sometimes, and for a lot of people, people walk into that, and I think we've all done it. Is you're moving into a place of incredible self sabotage.
Totally.
Project my story onto this situation, that person, this relationship, and if you project it enough, it will happen. It will happen, and then hopefully that if it does happen, we can use that as a learning tool to say, "Oh wow."
Yeah, 100%, brother.
Did I ever tell you guys the experiment I ran? Maybe I talked about this in a past episode, where I decided I would listen to what people were telling me and ask the question, what's their motivation? And it was amazing. It was like all of a sudden the world became a pane of glass. I could see everyone's wounding and the words that they were putting out as they were needing reassurance for love, or they were feeling insecure at work or whatever. But then after a couple of weeks of that, I turned it on myself and started listening to what I was saying out loud. And I asked myself, what's my motivation? And that's when shit got crazy.
Interesting.
I started to see all.
Josh, you doing that? And I want to throw this out to you guys. Do you ever find yourself in conversation with someone, say it, and then immediately go, and I just can't believe that I said that, and I know exactly where that came from?
Yeah.
That's awareness there, brother. That's awareness.
and go, oh my God, where did that just come from? In the moment of saying something or even doing something, going, wow, wow, I can't believe that just came out of my mouth not even 30 seconds ago. or even the thought. Take the words back, just the thought of going, oh yeah, well, they just want me for, they're just looking for an opportunity. And the thought comes right away. Catching yourself and knowing that is just part of your wounding, your conditioning, your programming, and your story.
Gentlemen, I hate to break the news to you, but we are at the hour. And so what I'd like to do is this time of the show where two things happen. One is I'd like to just acknowledge our viewers and listeners that are with us live or catch us on replay. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you being part of the show. This is an interactive show. We invite comments and questions. I don't really know what's behind, but Donna K. Rivera says the topic and the stories from you guys tonight has shaken up things in me. I'd love to know more about that. If you feel comfortable to drop it in a comment. If not, there's always Messenger. But other than that, if you enjoyed the show tonight, if you found it valuable and you'd like to share the content with your friends and family, please feel free to share on your own homepage and social media tonight's episode. And we will be coming back live as well next Tuesday at the same time with a new topic. And hopefully Charles will be back in the studio with the four of us. But at this point in the show, it is time for musical chairs. And each one of us will be given 2 minutes to either share what I call a liquid gold pure moment of a truth bomb, perhaps maybe a tool that you have learned or you have picked up along the way relating to this topic. Your other option is just to share some thoughts from your takeaways from tonight's show. And one of the highlights that I had in the pre-show marketing was, what does it really mean when we say fake it till you make it, or is it really fake it till you believe it? And so you've got a couple of options on how you want to close yourself out from the show tonight. But we're going to start musical chairs. We are going to actually, for tonight, in this moment, Josh, we're going to flip things around a little bit here.
Whoa. There we go. All right.
Nice. Oh, my brothers and sisters, thanks as always for joining in a Real Mineral Talk tonight. And look, as always, I can't wait to look back for this replay. But I guess on my little takeaway to finish up here, I hope my example tonight gave you an opportunity in what we're really living in to, give you an opportunity to live out your best life, because we really are limited we are living in unlimited potential right now. When we're talking about this 5D, we're talking about the house of mirrors. We're talking about anything goes. Your reality is up to you. It's simply a choice. I went and saw a movie at the start of the week, like I mentioned, called Tenet. And it talked all about these different timelines going back and forth into the past, into the future. But the only thing that could really change both aspects, that past and future, was that guy, that protagonist, in his now. It's in this present moment. So whatever it may be within your life, are you trying to change something about your health? Are you trying to change something about your wealth? Are you trying to change something about that hot topic on a Real Mineral Talk Live, relationships? Well, we don't have to play out the old story anymore. Come back to self, reconnect with the body, nurture your body, look after your body, learn about your body, connect with your body. When you start connecting and start telling it a story that you actually want to manifest down here in planet Earth right now and make it believe you, then my brothers and sisters, you're going to be able to start living out some of these infinite possibilities that we're talking about here on tonight's show. Now, I talked about my example, that young 17-year-old boy just turning up at a men's clothing store to get one of his first jobs. And 4 things came to my mind that really were a great example of that. And this is the power of manifestation. I observed the situation. We are all observers. Observe your space. Be patient. Active listen within the space and environment that you're in. There was a certain side of belief to me. I had belief within myself. Think about belief systems that you may have brought in from old past stories. They may no longer serve you anymore. Once I had that belief within myself, I acted it out. I actioned it. And what ended up happening in that point in time, not the next day, not weeks after, but in that point in time, I became the person I wanted to be. Act the part you want to become, you will soon become the person you act. Bob Dylan says those beautiful words. And on that note, my brothers and sisters, have a good evening.
Boom. Boom. Beautiful.
Yeah, Ev, I think you brought it home right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm just taking it in for a second.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Jeff's up.
Jeff Fonsano.
Jeff, I know how much you love to follow on Evis's coattails. So
Yeah. It's great. And I know I wanted to say something, but all of what you just said, Ev, is, and I just want to continue with it. With my story that I shared earlier, and going back to the knowing part, it is about doing your best to move out of your brain, move out of your head, find out what brings you joy, find out what that raises your resonance and vibration. As Josh said earlier in the show, we all resonating and vibrating at a certain level. Find in your life what raises your resonance and vibration within yourself, what lowers your resonance and vibration. As Jay just said, I mean, I wouldn't be on Real Men, Real Talk live if I stayed in the corporate world for another 15 minutes longer than I did. I found the knowingness in my heart space that I just knew. I connected with a knowingness within me that I knew I needed to create a new life and get out of that life. And then I found what raises my resonance vibration, brings me the greatest amount of joy, and that's photography. That when I made that choice to follow that path through a knowingness in my soul, that this is the path I wanted to take. And it really didn't have anything to do with photography. Photography was just the vehicle. But it was about shifting my whole life, changing and creating a brand new life. That I've come to realize that photography was just a vehicle to open more and brand new doorways that I could walk through in life. If I stayed at that corporate job, like I said, I wouldn't be here right now. And I just followed that knowingness in my soul, in my heart, stayed out of my own way, meaning I stayed out of my mental body and I followed this knowingness, this resonance, this vibration. And along the way, doors started to open. And then I started to gain these tools. Like I said earlier in my story, like Evis just said, act as if that you are there, that you belong there, that this is where you're supposed to be. I knew that. And even though all of those feelings would come up inside of me, I acted as if, because the whole thing, folks, is about knowing that you're worthy, knowing that you can have all of these dreams, and these dreams will come into fruition and become your reality, but they might not come as you think they might come. They're going to come perfectly in your divine plan as a multidimensional being if you just follow that pathway. And that's the pathway that your heart opens. Not your mind, not your willfulness, not trying to stick square pegs in the round hole, saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. When you connect with your heart and you're feeling it, your resonance and vibration opens, follow that pathway. And so many doors that you have never realized will open. For me, this show and meeting Jay Rothman was a doorway that I opened and walked through. And like I said, if I didn't make that choice back in 1999 to create a new life, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys right now.
Magic, brother.
Love it. Beautiful.
How do you really feel right now, Jeff?
I feel light. Actually, I feel light. I feel there. I don't feel heavy. I just feel light and available and aware and present, more so than I have in my life right now.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Love it.
Josh Richer.
Man, to follow up after that, both of you guys, wow. It's about choice. And right now. And we have choice. We may not think we do, and those tapes love to play. Those old tapes and old stories. But Ev brought it up. Is it serving you? And I learned that all of my stuff was not serving me one bit, and it was keeping me small, and it was keeping me in a life that I felt like I was settling for. I always felt like I was destined for more. But back in my early 20s, when I felt dumb, I thought I couldn't dream. And dreams are great, but dream without action just stays a dream. So I'm going to close with just a simple action step for those who may be fighting to break past the old stories, the old tapes when they run, is ask yourself, what would future me be really stoked I did right now in this moment? When you're at that crossroads and you get home and you really in your goals and dreams want to work out, but you're tired after work, say, what would future me be really stoked I did right now in this moment? And put on those running shoes and get out the door. And the you tomorrow will be so happy you did that and so stoked. And you won't have all that ammunition of beating yourself up tomorrow for not running or being healthy or doing, giving yourself self-care time, all of those things that we, hope and dream for, that stuff that we just need to take action on. So it's a simple, but powerful, and it fuels itself quickly. It's one of my fastest exercises that I love to do for clients is the Future Me game. So that's a little action step I'm going to leave all of you here at the end.
Love it, brother.
Hey, Josh, Mary Kelly asked, she said, well, first she said feeling light is a good way to explain a knowing, but beyond that, she says, any ideas on how to begin to dream?
Just close your eyes, sister. Just close your eyes.
I think that's the topic for our next show.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we could run a
Here's
full
the next
another
question.
hour.
This is a personal question. And Mary obviously has a motive here, but she says, how do you dream when you live in a moment? She's one of the only people I've met in my lifetime that truly has less thoughts than the average person, way less. And so that's a good question for someone who is on a lower lowest spectrum for the continuous thoughts that race through our mind in a 24-hour period, which the average person has over 60,000 thoughts that we then repeat 90% of the time.
I think I'm on the far other end, Mary.
Right, that makes two of us. Well, this is the time where I first want to thank three of you guys for joining me this evening for this subject matter, which we kind of broke it down. We dissected it in career, and we dissected it in relationship, and just enough to hopefully leave our viewers and listeners with some thoughts, some new thoughts, some new ideas, perhaps some inspiration and some hope for your future. That's why we do this show. For me, faking it till you make it comes down to truly learning how to know who you are. Even when you may not have everything that you need in front of you from a career perspective to do the job, to do the new job, as both Ev and Jeff talked about tonight, it's about the knowing. It's about having enough confidence in yourself to remind yourself, even when that younger self comes into self-doubt, you could say, it's possible. It's possible. Here's your tool. Here's your liquid gold moments. Positive affirmations in this moment. I am worthy. I am smart. I deserve this. I worked for it. I earned it. I deserve it. And most important, I am ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And every time that younger self goes to self-doubt, you could show up and parent your younger self. And you could remind that younger self of how hard you have worked to get to this point. And you both are worthy. And acknowledge your younger self and say, I know you're going to be scared in a moment. I know you're going to have those moments of self-doubt, but I'm here with you. We can go through this together. And we can be successful with it. But it really comes down to understanding that whole concept that I just shared. Understanding that I'm giving you permission to learn to speak to yourself, to have those conversations, and understand that when you go to those negative thoughts, those self-sabotaging thoughts, as was described here so eloquently tonight, you can deny them as the truth. You could say, is it true? And then you can answer the question yourself. You don't need to pick up the phone to ask a friend. You don't need to post it on social media and get everyone's perspective. You could answer that question for yourself. Why? Because you know your truth. Your truth is way deeper than your doubts and your self-doubts. Your self-doubts is just an indication that there's more shadows there, some old wounds, some old tapes, some old belief systems, that it's time to hack, biohack. It's time to shred. Deny it as the truth. And then accept what the truth is, which is you are worthy, you deserve it, you do matter. Now, when it comes to personal relationships, it really comes down to the same idea. In order for you to show up in a healthy relationship with someone outside of yourself, we've said this before, we have to be willing to show up for ourselves first. And when we're in relationships and we go to self-doubt, or we go to, let's call it lack of trust, who is it that we're really not trusting? Is it that other person? Or is it ourself? And when we can have that moment of clarity, that moment of awareness, we could take what I call the 4 A's, the steps of the 4 A's. The awareness, accountability, acceptance, and an action. And the action step is where that kryptonite, that superpower comes back in, guys. That's when we could say, yes, it's possible. We could dream it, and then we could make it real. And even if we don't do it perfectly, that's okay. Because we're going to learn what we need to learn so that the next time we either choose to do it the same or we opt out and we say, no, thank you. It wasn't right for me. It wasn't what I need. It's not fulfilling me. I don't find contentment in a relationship, whether it be at work or at home. Sometimes we can say no. Because when we say no, we are saying yes to ourselves. And with that, I love you guys. You guys are amazing. I love our show. I love our viewers and listeners. I'm just loving in this moment right now. It's possible, guys. And we don't have to fake it anymore. We just can acknowledge who we are and show up as our authentic self. And then we can ask the question, is it enough? And the answer's got to always be yes, we are enough. Because in this moment, we are enough. Mary Kelly says, thank you guys. You are all worthy and amazing. Ron says, coming in from Blaine, Washington State, no reason to fake it. Debbie Andrews says, love you all. Great show. Rest peacefully. Ron goes on to say, great stuff, gentlemen. Thanks for your vulnerability, truths, education, and love. Jeannie Cash says, I am worth it. I am smart. I am ready for it. Reparenting myself every day. Boom, right there. Grateful. Denise coming in somewhere, maybe back in
Sao Paulo.
South America.
Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Welcome. Welcome to the show, Denise. We're honored to have you join us coming in from Brazil. This is, in fact, an international talk show. We've got viewers coming in from all over the globe, the UK, Australia, Brazil, Canada, the United States. If you're coming in, and I didn't mention the country you're coming in from, please drop it in. I know a couple of weeks we've had Tasmania coming in, someone coming in from Tasmania. But I believe that is in Australia. Is that right? Yeah?
Certainly is, brother.
Donna Kay says, thank you guys. I really needed this tonight.
Beautiful.
So did I. As always.
I did too.
Well, you guys have an awesome week. I know we'll see each other in the production meeting on, I believe, sometime in the near future. Doesn't matter when, but thank you guys for joining us on Real Men, Real Talk Live. I love you guys. Love you in the audience. Stay safe, stay healthy, and just start to show up for yourself and love yourself. Starts with you.